In exactly 1 month, the transfer window will shut. West Ham have signed a new player today with plenty more lined up for this week. We have someone joining us tonight who's our guest, who's responsible for those rumours heating up. But before we get to him, we'll go to the guy who's responsible for his own chin heating up in this sunshine. And that's Charlie. Charlie, Jack Wilshere is a West Ham United player. He is a hammer. Has he made you a happy one?
Yeah, much so. Like, it was always difficult to replace Lanzini, and I don't want to say he's a direct replacement, but I think he's that slightly step above Lanzini where we all hope Lanzini can grow to. He's just got everything that West Ham fans would want in a player. I'm super, super happy that we've managed to get him. And then on top of that, whenever Lanzini does come back, imagine having a team with both Wilshere and Lanzini in it. That's like the thing of dreams. So I'm unbelievably happy here.
Joining us tonight, thankfully, is Lee Clayton from the Daily Mail. Lee, firstly, thanks for joining us. And secondly, what's your opinion on Jack Wilshere?
Yeah, very similar to Charlie. I think he's a terrific signing for West Ham. Incredibly excited, the prospect of seeing him. I've always admired him at Arsenal. Love those 1-2s, little jinky, old-fashioned 1-2s he does around the opposition penalty box. Obviously, there's the whole issue about whether or not he's going to be fit enough. But I just looked to see that he played 38 games last season for Arsenal in all competitions. Clearly, his body's taken the impact of some pretty bad tackles, and he has had a poor run of injuries over the years. But in West Ham, it's a real gamble. But I think it's a gamble that if it pays off, it's a fantastic signing for West Ham on a free transfer.
Lee, moving to the London Stadium, we got told about the next level this, next level this. Is this a signing that would, to you, sort of indicate that we are looking to move up to the next level, even if it is bit by bit?
I hope it's a starting point. I think that it just seems to me to be a right fit with West Ham. You know, for Arsenal, obviously they're moving on to different things. If you look around Premier League clubs, I know Crystal Palace wanted him. I know Southampton wanted him. But he's better than Crystal Palace. He's better than Southampton. And I just think that he is the right player, the right time, the right price. That free transfer, again, really important here. It's not like West Ham have spent £20 million on a transfer fee. Clearly, there's a big investment in wages. But I just think everything fits right on this. And it makes me very excited about the start of the season, along with the other potential signings that are coming West Ham's way.
Charlie, you mentioned there about how excited you are to see him playing for West Ham, but what about the chance of him not seeing him play for West Ham? He's called Jack Wheelchair for a reason. Does this concern you at all, or do you think it's one of them that we just have to gamble on and we have to wrap him up in bubble wrap, if you like?
It's obviously one of those things where we have a sort of habit of signing people who even are like injury prone and then all of a sudden get several horrendous injuries in a row. So there's an inherent risk with that with literally anyone you get. There is a history of it, and everyone mocks it relentlessly. But last season he played a lot of games, more than most of our squad anyway. So he's only 26 at the end of the day, and so if you can get the best out of him and keep him away from injuries, then the risks way outweigh the benefits way outweigh the risks, and it's even if he is injured, I think the games he does play, it will prove to be beneficial regardless.
While Jack Wilshere became our fourth summer signing, the rumour to be our fifth summer signing is Ukrainian winger Yarmolenko. Leeds rumour that he's over in Switzerland, or at least his agent is £80 million from Dortmund, a 28-year-old winger. Does he excite you?
Yeah, what I'm slightly concerned about is how many similar players that West Ham are trying to buy. I mean, potentially this idea of Yarmolenko, Wilshere, Felipe Anderson. Clearly, I understand that they have different roles. They bring different things to the team, and potentially incredibly exciting to get them all on the same pitch at the same time, along with existing West Ham players. Lanzini, we know, is injured. Arnautovic, who was absolutely terrific last season, and West Ham need to continue to try to bring the best out of him. So a lot of front-loaded players coming West Ham's way, which potentially is incredibly exciting. You asked in an earlier question whether or not this is all about stepping up. But if you put these together, I think Wilshere alone is about stepping up. So if West Ham can get some of these others across the way, the potential to bring in Yarmolenko, as you say, Felipe Anderson, who from some of the things I've seen from him looks like it could be an incredibly impressive signing for West Ham. Then add them all together, then potentially we're looking at something very exciting next season.
What about you? What about yourself, Charlie? What's your thoughts on the right winger? He's left-footed. He likes to cut inside. I mean, if there's a Pellegrini winger out there, that sort of fits the mold, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I don't know that much about him. When we got a link, I instantly asked yourself and young Athers, and so I'm not a massive bop on him. I don't really know a lot about him, but having read up about him and seen certain pieces that people have written and stuff, it's I don't know if he's the top level of what we could sign, but you start to think about again that link up play. So thinking about what will him and Lanzini and Arnautovic be able to create together? What will Lanzini be able to create with him? And getting what we need most is getting a lot of those sort of people in and around the box supporting the striker, because for so long we see be it Hernandez, be it Arnautovic, just so isolated up front by themselves. We need people who are going to be from the wing, cut inside and go towards the box to try and support the strikers and provide for those strikers. And he seems to be one of the best answers we can potentially get during this window for that question.
Lee, earlier this morning you were involved, the Daily Mail was involved in the story that Anderson deal could actually be back on. What do you make of this 40 million? It's a lot of money for West Ham. Are we at the stage, we're talking about the next level, but are we at the stage where we can afford to spend 40 million on one player? And if so, is he good enough to be that player?
Got to be honest and say I haven't seen an awful lot of him. From what I've heard, free kicks, left side, right side, the position he can play as a 10 or he can play wide either side, and potentially an incredibly exciting signing. And what I'd like to add to what Charlie just said is what we need in this West Ham team is an injection of pace. And that was so sadly lacking last season. Just the sort of one pace team with really, we saw the real good teams with pace like Manchester City when they come and play against you, can hit you on the break, they can stretch the pitch, Sane, Sterling, those kind of players. And I just wanted West Ham to bring pace into their side. And, you don't get that with Jack Wilshere. He's not that type of player. But some of these attacking wide players, Yarmolenko, has got a lot of skill. And Felipe Anderson is quick and will get into teams, will get past people. I think it's a real big investment from West Ham. And I know there's been a lot of disquiet amongst the supporters, which I include myself as one of them, about the lack of investment in the team and about the kind of, lack of movement, the lack of going forward as a club. But it seems to me, and this is what somebody said to me in Italy this morning, that West Ham are going for it with this signing. And they've refused to be pushed around by Lazio, have kept on messing around with the price. Looks like it's going to be around about 37, 38, potentially with some add-ons too. And if this player can be the player that I'm hearing that he could be, then this could be exciting times for West Ham. And we need a bit of that, don't we, after what was an incredibly frustrating season last season.
The other reports today suggest that it's either Yarmolenko or Bruno Fernandes. So if we do get the Ukrainian, perhaps expect the Sporting Lisbon striker, the attacking midfielder, not to join. We're sporadically being linked with Steven Nzonzi earlier today, the French midfielder who plays for Sevilla. That one's quite quiet, but he's still with the French team at the World Cup, so I wouldn't expect too much to happen on that, but we'll keep you updated with that when anything happens. But Charlie, moving from the attacking players, let's go to the centre-back. It came out from over in Paraguay that we were after Corinthians centre-back and captain Balbuena. 3.5 million release clause. It's looking likely. Now, I'm not expecting you to know anything about him, but I expect that you've read up on him.
A little bit, not as much as I should have, if I'm being perfectly honest. And you're right, I have never, ever heard of him before. But considering we've spent a hell of a lot of money on one centre-back, and that seems to be the person who we're probably going to build the defence around and look for a partnership with, and the fact we've got Rice and people like that in and around the team, Oxford played the other day as well. If you're looking for another guy to come in, you want someone who is strong, dependable, and has leadership skills, basically. You want someone who's going to come in and you can trust to put their neck on the line for everything. And if you're playing in South America, one of the things that those leaders, think about the kind of people those leaders tend to be, and just saying, this is a guy who's going to do those sort of things. We need a sort of replacement for James Collins, a guy who will just come in and be no nonsense about it. And from what I've read, he seems to be that kind of guy. And for the money that's around, and if Pellegrini does seem to be the person who wants him, seems to be the guy who's about it, then that's perfect for me. Bring him in, and then we are done at centre-back. We have a big, nice, deep selection of centre-backs we can use and create different pairings from.
Lee, on Sunday we saw Declan Rice use centre-back. That probably must have frustrated Pellegrini because it's believed that he wants to see him in defensive midfield. So do you think it's important we bring in a centre-back, another one, albeit we might not know who he is? But does that actually excite you a little bit? Are you fed up of being linked with likes of Ryan Shawcross, etc., and the fact that we're coming up against players who we might not know? Is this the strength of having a director of football that we now have?
Yeah, I think that obviously broadens the horizons in which West Ham are looking. I do like players that have got a bit of previous Premier League know-how. I think that's important. It's there's so little time to settle. But I'm impressed with the way the new manager's going about his business. I'm told by somebody who was involved in the Jack Wilshere deal that Pellegrini really turned his head towards West Ham. Obviously, we know he's got a history was a fan of West Ham as a kid and brother and father of West Ham fans. But Pellegrini did a fantastic job on him, the way he's talking about the way he wants to play, the type of entertaining attacking football he's looking to bring to the club. So all of this points towards an exciting season. And I just think these are small steps. There's a World Cup going on. Lots of our attention is averted towards that. But West Ham have already started in the transfer market and look like they mean business. Let's hope they get these across the line because it's so difficult. I mean, obviously, I follow a lot of West Ham fans on Twitter, and there's the frustration when these deals, like Felipe Anderson, take such a long time. But they're so complex, these deals, particularly when they're involving players from another continent. And then obviously there's the selling club and the extra add-ons that they want, deals involving the agents, let alone until we get to the players' wages. So I think that West Ham have not always had a great deal of patience in the sense that there's perhaps a lack of faith and trust in the way that West Ham go about some of their deals and some of the players that West Ham have ended up with. But I do think that things are moving in the right direction. And that, to me, is a positive step.
Well, that's your latest transfer rumours coming in, but there's a few going out. We have to balance the books. Somehow we're going to be splashing all this cash. Liam, coming to you because the person check Kouyaté. The regular viewers of this show know what I think about him and what Charlie thinks of him. So we want to get your view. Check Kouyaté. Apparently the fee is 10 million, which is quite low for someone who's got so much experience behind him. Was the Senegal captain up until the World Cup. Would you sell him or would you be disappointed to see him leave?
He drives me crazy. I get very frustrated with him. I think that he can be a terrific athlete, but he vacates his position too quickly. People break off him, get behind him, and whilst he brings that high energy to West Ham, particularly when you're playing against some of the bigger Premier League clubs, I think he switches off too quickly. His concentration is poor, and that phrase that you used about stepping up to the next level. We need better players than Kouyaté. So I would absolutely understand if West Ham were looking to sell him. 10 million seems a bit cheap. And I don't mean that to be a contradiction in terms, but I just think that at this day and age, nobody makes it easy for anybody. And I would be looking to get about 15 million for him if I were West Ham. But I definitely think that we need to move beyond players like Kouyaté if we're going to get to the next level.
Charlie, his centre midfielder partnership at times last season is also rumoured to be West Ham are willing to look at offers for Pedro Obiang. What's your thoughts on that one, Charlie?
I would be really disappointed if we saw him leave. I think that not only do we need to be, I think our main concentration needs to be on building depth throughout the entire squad. I think it's fair. It was far too threadbare last season, and so even Kouyaté, I would be mildly sad to see go. Not that much, but mildly. But with Obiang, I think he is he's our best passer of the ball in that centre midfield. I think Noble can do it, but he just seems to be able to a step above that. He can do it going forward. He's shown that he can occasionally have a defensive pass, but also can shoot from range. He's also decent defensively. I think it's for what we would get back for him. There's literally no point to sell him. I don't think we'd get anywhere near what he is worth to us right now. And then at a time where we need to add depth, I think it's just a bad decision overall. I would be super sad to see him go.
Two players that sort of, is he ready, is he not, is he ready, is he not? And that's Reece Burke and Josh Cullen. One looks like he's on his way to Hull City for around about £1 million. The other one looks like he's also available to leave West Ham. Lee, what's your thoughts on this? Is it time we do what we're doing, and that is make a decision on these young lads' future and cut them loose, or are you disappointed that they won't be given a shot? And as Charlie said, we need squad depth, so would there have been the obvious answer?
Both have done well on loan, as we know, in the places that they've been to. They've been given some opportunities in the first team, not much. I always feel disappointed when a player coming up through the club leaves, but I just think the time has passed them by, really, and I would understand why the club would want to cash in. Reece Oxford's a bit of a different situation, I think, from the two that you've just mentioned. I'm fascinated to see what Pellegrini does with him, because clearly huge backward steps last season under David Moyes. Didn't value him, didn't rate him when he came back. I particularly went to the cup game against Shrewsbury at home, and you're just really excited about seeing him play. I didn't think he could get into the game. He couldn't get on the ball, and we just saw a real kind of fading of the light for a very, very talented young player who we've been given great hope for in the past. I remember Tony Carr saying that, having seen Rio come through, that Reece Oxford could be a similar player. So we don't know if he's a centre back or whether he's a centre back or central midfield player. I hope the manager keeps him around and that he can carry on to learn and to develop, and we don't make a quick snap decision on him and sell him and then end up regretting it. So I hope that we get to see more of Reece Oxford in the West Ham colours.
Well, that's your opinions of Charlie and Lee. Lee, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Guys.
We want to hear your opinions at home. Drop in the comments below your thoughts on Jack Wilshere signing. Yarmolenko's apparently in Switzerland with his agent, soon to be our fifth signing. Our sixth signing looks like it's Corinthian centre-back and captain Balbuena for a lowly 3.5 million. And of course, we've got the outgoings of Kiate and Obiang rumoured, with Wiesper very likely to leave in the next week. I've been Gio, that's been Charlie, that's been Lee Clayton from the Daily Mail. We've been talking about the latest West Ham rumors. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you're new around here, and we'll see you very soon.